Today's show is sponsored by Datadog. Datadog is the monitoring, security, and analytics platform for developers, IT operations teams, security engineers, and business users in the cloud age. Their SaaS platform integrates and automates infrastructure monitoring, APM, and log management to provide unified, real-time observability of their customers' entire technology stack. Datadog is used by organizations of all sizes and across a wide range of industries to enable digital transformation and cloud migration, drive collaboration among teams, accelerate time to market, reduce MTTR, and track key business metrics. Give Datadog a try with a free 14-day trial. Listeners will also receive a free Datadog t-shirt. Visit datadog.com/cloudcast. That's datadog.com/cloudcast.
Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Cloudcast. We are coming to you live from the massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hope everybody's doing well. You're probably listening to this sometime around Thanksgiving, especially if you're here in the United States. But another Sunday Perspective show. We're going to dive a little bit, kind of a follow-up. I guess it's a follow-up, sort of an adjacent show to one we did a few weeks ago. We did a show on kind of how to become a product manager and, kind of the path that people take to product management, the different skills and so forth. And it was interesting, we weren't really sure how that sort of show goes because I know a lot of times people tune into, hey, what's the new technology? But actually the feedback on that show was probably one of the largest we've seen, at least on sort of day one, for almost any show we've had for a long time. So we thought, maybe that form of show is interesting to you. And so I thought what I would do is kind of take that in a little bit of adjacent route and look at what does it mean to become somebody who doesn't do product management necessarily, the idea of, you create the product, you create the vision for this product, you bring this product to the world, and then, live with this product or service. But what would it mean to become part of the technical marketing of some set of products or some set of services? And at first I was a little bit hesitant about doing this because I know while we have, for the most part, a fairly technical audience, if you will. I think most people would sort of say, hey, I bias towards, technologist, if you will. I think what we realized and what Aaron and I have realized for a long time is that, in order for things to be successful, it sort of asks the question, if you have a great technology, do you even need marketing? Or, is marketing nothing but just, lying to people and sort of double speak and that sort of thing? And I think what we've realized in real life is whether you're dealing with a project internally to your own business or you're out in the marketplace in some way, shape, or form, marketing takes on a lot of forms. It takes on a lot of different personas. It takes on a lot of different skills. It takes on a lot of different elements of what's going on, whether that's, creating the actual stuff that we see and we think of as marketing, whether that's a website or an ad or a webinar or an event, or, it's the people that, are doing a lot of the work, maybe behind the scenes, you maybe see them or you don't see them, that helps you understand the technology. So that could be people who do what we call technical marketing, right? They're making demonstrations and they're building trial systems and all sorts of stuff. Maybe they are advocates and evangelists and people who, DevRel, if you will, who are out talking about technology. They're trying to influence your decision as to, should I spend any of my cycles trying out this new technology? Should I download it? If I do download it, where's a good example? Where's good documentation, right? All those things sort of fall into the bucket of marketing. And the same sort of thing if you're doing something internally. So I thought what I would do is kind of dive into not only, number one, kind of give a really broad sense of what falls into all these buckets of things that would be called technical product marketing of various ilk, but also what are the skills that you need to be successful? What paths do people take to get into these types of roles? What sort of paths do they take out of those roles, right, over time as they grow and advance and so forth. And so I thought I would dive into that after the break. Today's show is sponsored by Juniper Networks. Future belongs to the fast, and the cloud is where speed happens. In today's cloud-native world of microservices and containers, there's mounting pressure to deliver an excellent application experience. Enter Juniper Networks Contrail Networking, which orchestrates virtual networks and network services at the performance and scale required of the largest, most dynamic clouds. It's simple, open, and agile. Contrail Networking provides a consistent networking and security experience for multi-cluster deployments running in the environments that you care about in this open, cloud-native world. Don't just take their word for it. See how it's being used in the wild to scale network infrastructure beyond the data center and enable the next generation of enterprise and telco clouds. Check out juniper.net/cloudcast to learn more. That's juniper.net/cloudcast. And we're back. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I kind of want to do this as a kind of adjacent to the, how do we get into product management? What does it mean to be in product management? What sort of skills do you need? How do you be successful? Where are some of the areas to kind of avoid or learn in order to not have failures or, to be, have a growth path in that space? And actually, I've seen a number of things. We got some really good feedback about the show, and I've seen a couple of really good articles written that I'll put back in those show notes from the week or two ago when we did the product management one. But I thought what I would do is kind of dive into the product marketing one a little bit, just because to a certain extent, part of you tuning into the show each week is you're trying to learn stuff. And, you could argue, well, that's a learning activity. That's not a marketing activity. But to a certain extent, a lot of the times, the people that come on our show, part of what they are doing, whether it's explicit or implicit, is, they're talking about what they do and talking about what you do, the communication of technology, trying to, help other people in their mind prioritize, what problem do I have? Which problem is more important than another problem? Because oftentimes we have lots of problems we're trying to solve, lots of fires we're trying to put out. We're trying to solve things in the short term, solve things in the long term. Right? There is a kind of constant thing that goes on both externally, so people trying to influence you, market to you, that type of thing, sell to you. But also, you're oftentimes doing this internal to your own company, right? And you may not necessarily think of it as marketing because your title may not be marketing, but the activity of, you working with other organizations, other groups within your company, other people, and, basically, prioritizing what you need to work on, influencing them that the way to solve that problem is going to be, path A versus path B, technology A versus technology B. Those types of things are very much what would fall into some aspect along the spectrum of what I would call technical product marketing. And so let me kind of walk into what I mean by that, just to kind of give folks a sense of what that means, because I think a lot of times, if you don't sort of live in this world all the time, or you haven't maybe been on the inside of some company or some cloud provider or whatever that puts things out in the world, you may not necessarily understand sort of the scope of it. So the first thing I kind of like to tell people is that there are a lot of different types of quote unquote marketers. And I'm just going to use the term marketers. We could say technical marketers, whatever, but people who are marketers. And keep in mind, if you kind of, go back to the kind of classic definition of marketing, you go to a marketing course, if you will, you take a business course, they're going to talk to you about sort of the 5 Ps, right? And I'm going to forget one of them and I'm going to feel dumb about it, but it's, product, positioning of the product, pricing of the product, promotion of the product, how much do you talk about it? And there's a 5th one that I always forget, and I'll put in the show notes just so I don't have to go back and edit this thing. But all of those different aspects, as you think about it, there's a lot of things involved with that. So, let me kind of give you some things that people would typically call marketing, right? There is very product-specific marketing, right? So people whose job is to make sure that when you go to a website and you say, tell me about this product, how much does it cost? How do I buy it? Where's the data sheet that tells me the features? Where's documentation that tells me how to use the product? Where's a license that tells me how I can use it or how I can't use it? All those things are very product-specific marketing things, right? They don't tend to be done by the product management team. They often are done by the product marketing team. And they're responsible for making sure that that information that you need, those things that align to those 5 Ps for that specific product are very well understood. And they're also, trying to make sure that when you, go out and do a web search and you put in the problem that you have, right? How do I make my internet faster? How do I secure my iPhone? How do I whatever? How do I, unlock something that allows me to collaborate? Whatever that might be. They want to make sure that, if their product does something in that aspect, that you might find it, right? And their goal there is to go, well, if you have a problem and they have a solution, they'd like to, kind of do some matchmaking, put those two things together, and then give you information that will help you understand whether it's a good fit for you or not, right? So that's sort of product-specific marketing, right? It's all those things. And again, that type of person not only has to be able to do sort of what you would call, pretty and shiny marketing, making sure the pictures on the website look great, the text and the context that you read is easy to understand, things are well organized so that you can figure out how much something costs, you can figure out what features are available, how to buy it, all those sort of things. But they also have to understand technology, right? They have to understand the technology of the product, right? They have to be able to kind of make sure it fits a certain way. If they're positioning it versus something else, they have to understand those things. They have to understand the technology of, how do I use search engine optimization? How do I use cookies or, things that might, serve you an ad or help track you on the internet or, customize your experience, give you a bot that pops up and does a chat bot so that you don't have to be bothered with certain things, right? They have to understand all those technologies as well as just, being able to communicate. Next type of kind of marketing is what you'd call go-to-market marketing, right? And this really is people who understand the nuances of, how do we roll something out? How do we make, when something new comes out, or, it could be brand new, it could be an iteration, a new version that comes out, or something that needs to go out through a channel. So there's going to be a lot of people that make it available to you. That's a very unique kind of marketing, right? It's an understanding of how do we get this thing in front of the people that potentially might want it, but also understand that the different ways that you might want to get it might be different, right? So, for example, let's use an iPhone, and this probably isn't the best example, but I can buy an iPhone through the website, the Apple website. I can go to an Apple store. I can go to an AT&T store. I can go to, various third parties. Those are all different routes to market, and they have different nuances. There's different pricing and promotion that has to happen. So for example, if you've ever seen an Apple commercial, it'll be an Apple commercial, but sometimes it's sort of an Apple commercial that's sponsored by Verizon, right? And they're going to kind of weave in together the, what Verizon does versus what Apple does, and understanding all those different nuances so that you have, as a consumer of this thing, lots of ways to get access to it and in the places you want to. And it's going to be different from country to country. It's going to be different from region to region. And sort of, understanding all those things, that's a sort of go-to-market marketer. And there are unique skills that are understood there. There are country-specific things. There are language-specific things. There are kind of business relationship things. You have to make it worthwhile for people to want to put your product on their shelf, put it on their website, prominently promote it versus something else they have. And so understanding all those things are really important. The next thing is what I'll call sort of technical marketing. And this is, for a lot of the people that listen to this show, probably the most relevant because this is a really big bucket. And I'll say technical marketing, there are roles that are called technical marketing engineer or some variation of that, right? There are also roles called evangelist or advocates, right? Sometimes you hear them called DevRel or other things. Essentially, these are people who, if you met them at a meetup and you were a technical person, you were an engineer, you were a developer, you were a sysadmin, whatever you did, you probably bump into these folks. They're going to look like you. They're going to talk like you. They're going to have experience like you of being very hands-on. And the difference is their job is to be very hands-on with that product, but be able to present it in a way that makes you go, oh, that seems to solve my problem. They've created a demonstration that sort of showcases to me how something works. They've created a system in which I can quickly log into something and get a free trial up and running. They might be speaking in an event, right? Talking about why people might want to use this, might want to be talking about how this fits into your culture, right? So in essence, this is a person who has technical skills, hands-on technical skills, just like you. They have maybe better than average communication skills, right? So they have to be able to sit down with something that's usually pretty new, understand that technology. So they've got to be able to work on new things a lot. They like to learn new things. But then they also have to be able to communicate that to you in a way that, number one, doesn't waste your time. Number two, is fairly easy to understand because, again, you're busy. You've got a lot of different people knocking on your door, sending you emails saying, hey, our silver bullet solves this problem. This new mousetrap solves this problem. And they have to be very good at listening, right? They have to be sort of a two-way communicator because they're going to be putting things in front of you, either directly themselves or digitally through some way that you engage with it. And they're looking for ways to collect feedback from you, right? Oh, you really like this. Okay, what could we do? Oh, you really hate this. Okay, well, why do you hate it? What does it not do that we thought that it did, right? So they not only have to be good outbound communicators, good technologists, be able to put things together in ways that are interesting to you, but they have to be very, very good listeners. And they have to be able to listen in ways that they don't take offense when you don't like their technology. They have to be able to listen in ways that they can then take that back to a product manager and say, hey, I've heard this over and over again from people in this kind of role or people in this sort of industry or people with this sort of use case, and it's just not hitting. Or they're telling us, you've got it 80% right, but the other 20% just, you're now introducing 6 new steps to them, and that's just not going to work for them. So, everything within that spectrum and probably some other things that I've left out are things that could fall under marketing, right? And again, a little bit different than product management. You're not necessarily writing all the specifications. You're a little more focused on the now, on trying to help solve problems, help trying to introduce new technologies, help trying to, get people to go, oh, there is a different way to do that. There's a better way to do that. There's a less steps way to do that. And the thing about marketing, if you will, and again, I'm not sort of advocating that you have to love it or this has to be where you go, but I think it gives you a perspective is it's really about kind of blending together a bunch of technical skills, again, depending on what type of role you're in, and communication skills, both, the spoken, written, verbalizing, podcasting, video creating, demo creating, outbound communication, but also the listening, right? Not only listening directly to people, but running A/B tests on, hey, we tried this and we tried this. This worked better, or, whatever it might be. So you've got to be very good at that. Now, the next thing that I'll sort of highlight is the big difference in my mind between sort of technical marketers, product marketers, and product managers is you have a little bit different timeline or a little bit different priority on the timeline, right? Both of you are trying to manage long-term sort of problems and short-term immediate types of things. The marketer tends to focus a little more or prioritize more on the shorter-term things, right? Like, how can I help you solve a problem now? Whereas the product manager is trying to make sure that, the things that they're putting into the product, knowing that the product takes a while to build and so forth, they're having to think a little bit more. So they tend to prioritize things a little farther out sometimes than what's immediate because, they know it takes a while to build a feature or it takes a while for new hardware to get created or whatever those things might be. So again, a little bit different priorities. And then the other thing that I think is really, really important is as a marketer of whatever ilk, you really have to be very, very good at not only understanding the technology and sort of translating the technology into features or this problem into a technology or something, but you got to be really good at understanding the business. And there's an old saying that goes around all the time. If you've never heard it, it's always sort of eye-opening the first time you hear it. But it goes something like this: you want to hang a picture, and you go to the store because somebody tells you in order to hang a picture, you're going to need a drill or you're going to need a hammer and a nail because essentially you want to put that picture up on the wall. Well, when you go to the store, let's say you go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's or whatever your local hardware store is, while the thing that you're going to buy is going to be, is going to be a drill bit or a drill or a hammer and a nail, the thing that you ultimately want is not a drill bit or a hammer and a nail or a whatever. You want a hole, right? That's the thing you ultimately want is you want a hole because then you're going to put some sort of hook in and you're going to hang your picture. And I highlight that, and it sounds sort of silly sometimes when you first think about it, but then you think about it a little bit more and you go, yeah, the problem that somebody has is they're trying to put a hole in the wall so that they can then do the thing, which is hang the picture. And ultimately, they may just be thinking, I just want to hang this picture. I don't really care about the hole or the tool or the way that I do it or that it's level. I just want it to be on the wall and I want it to look good. And that's a hard thing sometimes for technologists to sort of get over, which is, okay, how big a hole do they want? What tool do they need to do that? Well, is the hole going to be level? Is this a picture you're going to hang that has, 2 places on the wall and all these sort of things? When again, the thing that your person wants, your customer, your end user wants is, I just want this painting to be in my room and to look beautiful. And, one of the things that a marketer, a technical marketer, whatever, has to be able to do is do that translation between the thing the person wants, right? The outcome they want, the thing that they perceive to be valuable to them, and the means in which you go about doing that, right? And, there's 10 different ways you could hang a picture on a wall. You're not only trying to figure out, well, what do they want, right? Maybe they don't even want a picture. Maybe they want someone to come out and paint something directly on their wall. Who knows, right? But that's one of the skills that you're trying to do. And so put that in a technical context, like, do they want to, do they want to be secure? Well, they don't really care about being secure. They just don't want to get, fined by an auditor for having not complied to some law. Okay, well, that's different than saying I want to be secure. Do I want really fast internet, or do I want a great gaming experience for the people that are going to be using our game that we built and so forth? Again, very different ways of thinking about that. And that's kind of the role that a marketer has to take, is that they understand business value. They understand user value, what they're willing to pay for, what they're willing to spend their time on, versus things that they don't really believe are worth their time, worth their value, worth their effort, and ultimately worth engaging with you, right? And that's the thing that you're ultimately kind of engaging with. Now, the last thing I'll sort of talk about is, there really has been a shift in what you would consider to be marketing over the last some number of years, right? So for those of you that work in the IT industry and you've had some vendor come out to your office, or you've sat on a webinar or whatever, that's what I would consider sort of a very direct or semi-direct sort of marketing, right? Somebody has identified you. They've created a message around what they think you want. They've tried to identify what problem you've had. Maybe they built some slides. They built a website. They built a demonstration. That's a very classical way of doing marketing. Maybe they're, had you sign up for a webinar. They've sent you then follow-up stuff based on an email, all those sort of things. Things have really sort of shifted. And if you think about it in the context of, what people did with software or hardware versus what they do with like SaaS services, things have really become much more self-service. Now, what that means is, as a marketer, you don't directly have as much touch points with the people that are going to potentially use your technology in the past, but you potentially also have a lot more digital touch points of the people that you work with. So for example, if I'm just collecting a kind of a rundown, name, address, email address, whatever, that can be faked. I don't necessarily know anything about you. And, it went into a bucket, the Johnny lead gen bucket, if you will. But if you're signing up for a SaaS site and you're giving me some sort of identity, and I can tell what you're doing with that application because it's running, in my SaaS service, and I can track whether or not you've signed up for it and not used it. Maybe there's a 14-day trial. I can immediately sort of follow up with you and go, hey, Billy, Mary, whatever. Hey, you took the time to sign up for this. Was there something that we didn't do for you? Did you not have time? Do you want me to extend it for another 14 days for you? Was there something that you didn't understand? Maybe you thought it was something and there was pricing. So what we're seeing more and more with this is the direct touch point initially may have less friction, less things that you would have done from a marketing perspective. But because things have become much more digital, especially as they become much more SaaS oriented or using the cloud, and the cloud has some sense of, directly, are you engaging with it? Are you putting applications in this environment? Are you directly using certain features and so forth? They have a greater ability to build customizations around trying to make your experience better. That may come across as annoying. Hey, they're following up with me a lot more than maybe they used to. But they're also able to target, kind of what you need, right? Trying to figure out what you need a little better than saying, hey, here's a piece of software with 150 features. I'm not going to come back and talk to you again for a year until you do a renewal. And oh, by the way, I won't have any idea, what you did with that because there was no, it wasn't running anywhere that I could collect any sort of telemetry or any sort of way of sort of knowing what you liked and didn't like and collected feedback. So the marketer role in all of its sort of breadth is really, really changing. And so if you're thinking about maybe being in the marketing space, you really have to think about, do you understand now sort of the marketing stack that's needed to reach people, to communicate to people, to understand their needs, to understand their desires, what they like, what they don't like. It's really, really changed. It's gone from, lots of webinars and steak dinners and PowerPoints and all those things like that to, things that are a lot more sort of digital native, direct engagement, ability to follow up and all those sort of things. And they've very much changed. So, I think if you take the first 10, 15 minutes of this presentation or this power podcast about the scope of what's needed to be a successful marketer and the skills that are in that space, a lot of those are going to be really relevant, right? Know the technology, understand your customer, be willing to listen, be willing to be good at communicating, create things that are valuable, all those sort of things. But things have really changed in terms of how they're delivered, how you collect feedback, what the one-to-one, the one-to-many relationship is, the feedback loops and all those sort of things. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up with that. I've gone for a little while now, and I think you can take some of that if you're interested in the marketing space, again, of any variation in the marketing space, and potentially use some of that to determine what might fit for you, where your skills might be a good fit with the needs of, different things, or even, as you think about how you have to communicate, influence, kind of drive results within your own business, and those sort of marketing, communication, collaboration skills that are needed. I think you can find, where it's good, where you may have, deficiencies that you can partner with somebody who has better skills and so forth. And I think the biggest thing to remember in marketing is that, you oftentimes realize I have some of those skills. I don't have others of those skills. How can I partner with people that have some of those other skills and kind of build some really interesting bonds around that? So with that, I'm going to kind of wrap it up, this sort of how to be a technical product marketer in all the different ways that you can do that. Thanks and all for listening. Hope everybody has, if you're in the U.S., you have a good holiday season if you're listening to this. And we're going to wrap up. Thanks again for telling a friend. Thanks for helping us grow the show, giving us feedback. And again, we've gotten some really interesting people reaching out lately, just asking for advice, asking for help. Always happy to help with that, whether you reach out via LinkedIn or show@thecloudcast.net. Always happy to engage with our community, help our community any way we can. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.